Hi everyone, my name is Karen, this is my channel RatherBeReading, and today I'm bringing to you my February mid-month wrap-up. So from the 1st through the 15th of February, I managed to read 9 books. It's obviously nowhere near as many books as I'd read at this time last month, which I believe I'd read 14 books by this time last month, but last month was crazy with how many books I managed to read, so I'm really happy with getting 9 books read for the first half of the month. So let's just jump straight in and I will talk about the 9 books that I read from the 1st through the 15th. The first book that I picked up in February was Forthcomings by Megan McCafferty. This is the 4th book in the Jessica Darling series. I really enjoyed the first 2 books in this series, which follow Jessica in high school, but I didn't enjoy the 3rd book, which followed her in college as much, and this follows her kind of just out of college as an adult, and I didn't enjoy this one either, really. I ended up giving it 2.5 stars, but Jessica is really self-absorbed, and while that has been prominent in all the other books in the series as well, it just really got to me in this installment. This book just really didn't feel like it added anything to the series whatsoever. And now, having read the synopsis after I finished this for the 5th book in the series, the 5th and final book, I really feel like this was just a filler book that was used to kind of get us to the events that the author wanted to write about for the 5th book, and I really don't like that either. In the end, I gave this 2.5 stars, as I said. The next book I picked up was Mixed Signals by Alyssa Cole. I read this on ebook. This is the 3rd and final book in the Off the Grid trilogy. This is a companion trilogy, so this book follows Maggie, who is the younger sibling of Gabriel and John from the first 2 books. As I've mentioned before, this trilogy does feature really great diversity. The first book dealt with an African-American main character and an Asian love interest. The 2nd book dealt with a LGBTQIA+ relationship, and this 3rd book again deals with an Asian main character, which was really great. These books are described as being kind of sci-fi, post-apocalyptic, but they're definitely more romance than they are action, which is fine. I knew that going in, having read the first 2 books in the series. I did enjoy it. I really liked Maggie as a main character. I enjoyed kind of getting to explore her a bit more, as we had seen her a little bit in the previous 2 books. Overall, it was just an enjoyable read, and I ended up giving it 3 stars. Next, I picked up What I Saw and How I Lied by Judy Blundell. I actually listened to this on audiobook. It's not a book I'd really heard anything about prior to picking it up, but it sounded interesting, and so I decided to give it a go. This book follows a teenage girl in post-World War II America. Her stepfather has returned from the war, and it's kind of about their lives following on from that, when a young guy who served with her stepfather in the war kind of appears in their lives, and she kind of discovers that maybe there's more to her stepfather than what she thought. That's kind of the general gist of the story. I did enjoy this, but there was something in it that I wasn't sure if we were supposed to have picked up on or not. Like, I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be really obvious to the reader, because it seemed really obvious to me. I did really enjoy the commentary in the book on kind of how Jewish people were treated, even in somewhere like the US, which was obviously fought against the Nazis, but how they were treated in the post-World War II America. So I found that really interesting, but this book was just really way too open-ended at the end for me. That's kind of really what killed the rating a little bit for me. I did still end up giving it 3 stars, but it may have been like a 3.5, 3.75 star book if the ending hadn't been as open-ended as it was. I just really didn't get enough closure on anything. So yeah, 3 stars. Apologies if the camera angle just changed. I just ran out of memory card space, because that happens to me all the time. But anyway, the 4th book that I picked up in February was Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. This is a book that I'm sure you all know what it's about, so I'm not going to go into it. I was a little bit tentative to pick this up. I was pretty sure that I was going to enjoy this series because it is so beloved, and it just did seem like the type of thing that I would enjoy, but at the same time I was a little bit worried going in, because I do feel like I'm kind of at a stage in my life where I have outgrown some of the kind of teen vampire-ish type stories, but I did end up really enjoying this. Rochelle Mead just has a really like kind of easy to read writing style. Like everything just flows so nicely and it's just so kind of easy to read. So that was really enjoyable. I really love the relationships in this book. I love Rose and Lys's friendship. It's just so beautiful. I love how close they are. It was just, I really enjoyed reading about that. I obviously really enjoyed the chemistry between Rose and Dimitri. I really enjoyed that, obviously. That was a great part of the story. I've never heard anyone say this, so I just do want to mention it because I haven't heard it mentioned. As I said, there is trigger warnings with this for cutting and depression, so keep that in mind if you are picking up this series. But I really, really, really enjoyed this, and I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. The next thing that I picked up was volume 6 of Morning Glories. This one is called Demerits. If you saw my January wrap-up, I believe it was, I read the 5th volume and I really had some problems with that one. I just felt like it was really, there was too much going on at that point. And while I didn't feel like anything was really answered in this one, it didn't introduce a whole lot of new stuff, which I appreciated. And I do still enjoy the storyline, even though I am really confused. And I do enjoy the artwork. An example for me to show you guys, you can see that, like, it is really gorgeous artwork that I really enjoy. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. I'm going to keep going with the series because at this point I'm kind of like, well, I've read 6 volumes and I want to know what the F is going on because I just feel like I deserve to know at this point. So I will definitely be keeping on going. And I am enjoying it, but it is frustrating at the same time. But as I said, I did enjoy this volume a little bit more than the last one, and I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. Next, I picked up The Bad Dog Mystery by Emily Rodda. This is the 9th book in the Teen Power Inc. / Ravenhill Mystery series, which is a series from my childhood that I've been rereading. I enjoyed this installment. It's not my favorite. It is still really enjoyable, but I just found that this one didn't have as much of the kind of mystery aspect that some of them have, but I did still enjoy it. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. The next book that I picked up is The Darkest Place by Jay Ford. This is actually a book that I was approved for on NetGalley, so thank you to NetGalley and the publishers for approving me to read this one. This is actually a book by an Australian author and is set in Australia, and it follows a woman who has kind of a mysterious past that we don't really know too many details about, and she's moving to a new area and is living in a new apartment, and one night she wakes up in the middle of the night to see a man standing over her. Once the man she just kind of lays still, and when the man has left, she calls the police, of course, and the police come and they, look into things, and then it happens again and she calls the police again, and it gets to the point where the police can find no fingerprints in the house from anyone else. They can't find any point of entry or any sign that anyone was ever in her house, and they don't believe that anyone ever broke in. She starts to wonder if she's crazy. Is someone really breaking in? Is she imagining it? And it's just kind of a psychological thriller mystery kind of story. This was actually really, really enjoyable. I really enjoyed the story. This was just like a kind of really tense, suspenseful mystery, especially with kind of this, I guess what you would call maybe a bit of an unreliable narrator, because she's not necessarily unreliable, but she's questioning herself. She doesn't know. And you're reading the whole time thinking, is she crazy? Is this happening? Is she experiencing some kind of, is she having nightmares and not realizing that it's nightmares? Is it really happening? You just have no idea what's happening, and it was really just enjoyable. I did kind of pick certain aspects of the kind of story, but that didn't really detract from my enjoyment at all. If you enjoy kind of psychological, kind of tense books like that, then I would recommend giving this one a go because it was really enjoyable, and in the end I gave it 4 stars. Next on audio, I picked up Detour by S.A. Bodine. This is yet another book that I haven't really heard anything about, but I saw and the synopsis sounded really interesting, so I decided to give it a go. This is kind of a young adult misery. Misery is a book by Stephen King, and it's also a movie you may have seen. It basically follows a girl who's 17, but she is a very successful young adult author, and she is in a car accident, and then she wakes up and she is kind of trapped in this woman and her daughter's basement, and they're kind of keeping her prisoner, and that's kind of where the story goes from. It sounded really, really interesting. Misery is one of my favorite Stephen King books, and I really enjoy the movie, so I was really kind of excited to give this a go and see what I thought. I didn't really end up enjoying it that much. The main character, I despised. I could not stand her, and that made like kind of reading from her point of view kind of hard to swallow. Like, she is really stuck on herself. She thinks like she's the bee's knees of basically everything, and I just really can't stand that in a main character. And I don't really feel like she had any growth as a character either. The story was also really predictable, and parts of it were also really, I just did not believe at all. You were just kind of going, as if that would happen. Like, so in the end, I didn't really enjoy this at all. I did end up giving it 2.5 stars. It was kind of enjoyable, but I just said I didn't enjoy it. But it was kind of an enjoyable story, but parts of it, I kind of hated it, but enjoyed it at the same time. I don't know if that makes any sense, but in the end, I gave it 2.5 stars. And the final book that I picked up from the 1st through the 15th of February was Frostbite by Rochelle Mead. This is the second book in the Vampire Academy series, and I really, really enjoyed this one as well. I felt like we really got some great character development from Rose in this one. I do know that a lot of people say that Rose is really, really annoying, and I think that may come in later books. So I'm a bit worried about that, but I also have heard a lot of people say that the first 2 books are the weakest book in the series, and that from here on out it gets so good. And I've rated this book and the first book in the series 4.5 stars, so I'm really excited for it to get even better than this because I am really enjoying the series. I also really enjoyed getting to see more of Rose and her relationship with her mother. That was really, really interesting, and obviously I enjoyed all the Rose and Dimitri stuff going on in this one. The thing I appreciated most about this book was what it showed of Rose and Lissa's relationship in relation to Lissa kind of having this romantic relationship and Rose feeling left out, because I feel like we've all been there when we've had a good friend or a best friend who gets a new boyfriend, then doesn't have as much time for you as they used to. Like, we've all been there. It was really relatable. I really, really enjoyed that part of the series. I can't wait to continue, as I said, and I'm really looking forward to it. I've been really, really enjoying this. It's been one of the highlights of my reading month so far. So as I said, I gave this one 4.5 stars. So those are the 9 books that I read from the 1st through the 15th of February. I would love to know your guys' thoughts if you've read any of these books, or I'd love to chat to you guys in the comments below about what you've been reading. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more. But that's all I've got for this video today. Bye, guys.